What if everything you thought and believed about successful buying, selling, and financing your home was wrong? Welcome to HomeWise with Miget. This is where you can count on straightforward, objective advice on the right way to make the most out of every dollar you put into your home. Whether it's buying, selling, or financing, even maintaining and growing its value along the way. Coming to you from the News Talk STL studios at Union Station in St. Louis.
Yes, welcome to HomeWise Radio. My name is Paul Cook, the man who created the show, thinking all of this stuff up and these great strategies. Hello, Michael Miget.
Hey, Paul, how are you doing?
I am excellent. You know, I visualize in movies or wherever when you go into this library, right? You go into this beautiful library, like, man, that guy has a huge library with all these volumes in it. I kind of visualize us creating a content library with HomeWise Radio, similar to that, but it's not, it's digital. You know what I mean?
We are, yeah.
And you can go back and you can hear it, you can familiarize yourself, and I invite you to do that. And yes, have that in your mind. So make sure you have an Ask Scott on and your snifter. No, you don't need any of that stuff. Not at all. No.
It's funny that you bring that up like that, because that is, I'm like notes galore, like how, like if you can think in your mind of the old school, like where the guy's sitting at the desk and he's got the papers piled up around, yes. You can't see him, like he's got to like look up over the top.
That's great,
of him,
Ziggy.
That's like me and my notes that I used to have, and up until recently they were all like handwritten because it was a very like physical thing, like pen on paper, pencil on paper, and now so I switched to digital, and it actually. Like now I can actually find stuff.
Yes.
But even that starts to pile up after a while. So this show is it's not only what's in our minds, but it's also what has already like left the mind, made it to paper or digital paper, and now is kind of getting run through the process of making it coherent for the regular person.
It's hard. 31 years of experience, the ins, the outs, the ups, the downs. It's hard to get it all into one show or a show, or just where you think like, and that's the thing. If you're listening wherever you are here today, that's what you're always obsessed with, is finding a way to make that understandable.
And even it certainly doesn't fit in one show.
Right.
Sometimes the idea doesn't even fit inside one show. Yeah. So like, for example, today's show, we need to continue with the strategy that I laid out, began laying out last week, called the Wealth Builder Mortgage Loan Strategy, our loan structure. So if you think of the big picture of things, all right, so the headline theme here at HomeWise, the home is the epicenter of your personal finances, your personal wealth, okay? It's your biggest investment. Your largest monthly payment, and it's likely where most of your wealth is going to wind up when you get near to or at retirement, okay? So how well that performs as an investment is directly tied up to the decisions that you make when you buy, when you sell, when you finance, and basically everything else you do in between those two times. So if buying and selling are the bookends on a particular property, you got everything in the middle, right? So the maintenance and
how you care for your home.
I mean, but that's just part of it,
right?
I mean, it's actually a bigger piece than the other pieces are. That's a preview of long-term arc of where the show is going.
Wealth builder, and just overall.
Still, well, right, but the show as an idea, as the big picture of the show, that's where it's going. So we will address the whole thing, but we're still kind of dealing with that beginning piece when you're acquiring, when you're making those initial decisions, because that's what starts the process. That's what kicks things off.
Yeah, okay? And that financing is crucial.
So
how you do it.
So when we talk about the home and the wealth and that, it's what we're really talking about is home equity. All right. So the personal wealth that comes from the home, it's in the form of home equity. So home equity is comprised of two things. It's the difference between what a home is worth and what's owed on it. All right. But
Yes.
the development or the growth of that equity is driven by one, home value appreciation. So you bought the home at X and now you've owned it for a while and now it's worth X plus something.
Yes,
right?
hopefully plus.
So generally speaking, properties, when looked at over a long enough period of time, do go up in value. Okay?
Yep. Yep.
The other piece of that is principal pay down on the mortgage. So as you make payments, remember, portion of it goes to interest, portion of it goes to principal. The part that goes to principal goes to pay down the loan, so that the next period you don't pay as much interest. All right. So we've talked about that before. This idea of the loan pay down, though, it doesn't get much press.
Yeah, it's
Nobody
not
really
shiny.
talks about it very much, right?
Sassy and sexy.
Well, right. Well, there's a reason for that. Okay.
What is that?
Well, it doesn't almost never happens.
Oh,
Right? Okay.
Yes.
So most loans out there, the most popular loan out there, 30-year fixed mortgage. Okay. Well, on a 30-year fixed mortgage, that's generally the longest term you can have for your mainstream type mortgages. Okay.
And it's only in America,
And it's only in America.
which is amazing.
Right.
Sorry. Continue on.
Right. The fixed version of
Yes.
that. Which there's magic in the fixed version of that magic product, Warren Buffett's
Yeah.
favorite investment. It's a 30-year loan, so the principal pay down is very small in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Takes forever to get anywhere. Seems like it anyway.
It
You make
truly
payments,
does.
make payments. You make payments for a whole year, and you turn around, you look back, and like that's all. Like I made all those payments.
Yes.
And I still owe what? You know. And if you look at a typical 30-year loan, you'll get well past the 15-year mark, inwards into 20 years into the loan before you've even paid off half the loan, organically through principal pay
Through
down.
those payments.
Okay?
That's fascinating.
And it's just math. There's no conspiracy against you. It
Great
doesn't
point.
make it a bad loan. It's just you have to understand it.
Yeah.
Okay. And understand that you have a choice. Okay. So that's kind of what we're talking about here is that choice that you have up front. So, but it doesn't get much, this idea of pay down doesn't get much press because 30-year loans pay down very slowly. All right. Now, couple that with the fact that historically people have refinanced every few years.
Yes.
Okay. So now go back to 30-year mortgage is the most popular mortgage. So when people refinance, most people refinance into another 30-year mortgage.
Yeah.
That's how you get the lower payment, which is why they're doing it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you're always starting over.
I've done
with
this.
that new 30. Well, everybody's
Yes.
done it. I've done it.
Yeah.
Everybody has done it. This
Yeah.
is simply
You hear the commercials, you're like, man, all that stuff that's on your mind that I know you have much more on that. There's much more than what you hear of like, I can make a less payment. I could do this. This is the rate.
right.
And by the way, your name is Michael Miget. My name is
It is.
Paul Cook. This is HomeWiseRadio.com. We thank you so much for listening. And these strategies that Mike's talking about are so important. And that's what's cool. We enjoy you listening and are grateful that you're listening on News Talk STL 1019 941. I listen through the app, the News Talk STL app, and you can go back and that's what's really cool is in this show, you can go back and listen. You can go back and what was that? Go back, So we want to have the kind of show you go back on rather than you go forward on.
And you can also watch us on the radio.
Yes, that's correct. I have a camera on me right now, and that's a really cool thing
On
as well.
Facebook, Rumble, and YouTube.
Wow. I'm so glad you remembered that too. So yes, all of that. I interrupted you.
okay.
We're talking about the Wealth Builder mortgage,
Well, look,
which
you
is
know
really
what?
cool.
If they can't find you,
Yes.
then this is all for naught.
Yeah, right. If you can't find this,
Right. If you can't find it, we're not talking to anybody. It's
Yeah,
like,
that's
so
right.
that's important. We get that piece down.
yes.
But so when you're always refinancing, you're always starting over back at 30. If you go back to a new 30 to take the lower payment, you never get to the part of the loan process where you're really plowing into the principal.
Mhm.
I call it. Like you're making the payment and a significant portion of it is going to pay down the loan. All right. Doesn't make it good or bad or anything else. It just is, right? And
Mhm.
it's just math. Okay. The thing that occurs to me though is if you don't earmark or have a plan for what that monthly savings is, you might not actually save any money. All right. So the big idea here is have a plan. Okay. No plan is a plan to fail.
That's right.
All right.
You've proven that.
So when you look at the HomeWise homebuyer playbook strategy journey process thing that we've started laying out a few weeks ago, and I said you start with building the financing plan. That's asking questions and outlining that strategy.
Yeah.
The strategy is the plan, right? You're going to choose a strategy. And so talking about the first strategy that I'm officially laying out, like we've talked about many of them. I just haven't labeled them for you. So some of them might have gone like straight over people's heads or whatever. Sometimes that's, just when you're talking about things in passing, it's easy to miss things of significance. But golly, if I stopped every time I said something I thought was significant, we'd never get through an episode.
Yeah. Well, the fact that you're saying it, you believe it's significant.
Well, yeah. So, and when people work with me, don't understand. Like I try to make sure that you understand what's going on, but also understand like it's not like it's not like getting a PhD. I mean, you're relying on me to know this and look through these eyes and sort of instill in what we're doing. These
right
ideas
that
I'm laying out.
Because it's interesting to listen to. It's interesting to know, and you need a plan. You need a strategy, but you don't have to know everything. That's what's important.
Right.
Going with you or someone like you.
That's the idea
Huge.
With getting a true professional.
That's right.
Right. And so we're going to hear from one of them, a guest expert in segment 2 coming up here in a few minutes.
Can't wait.
Can't wait to meet him.
Yes.
But so no plan is a plan to fail, right? So that's what the Wealth Builder Mortgage is a plan. It's a plan for how to finance the house. It's a loan structure, right? So it's not a special, unique, exotic mortgage or anything risky. All right, it's not risky. Actually, it's designed to be less risky.
Great
right?
point.
So generally speaking, the way people assess the financing on a house and is it risky or not, and I developed it for the purpose of fitting into the category that it would be less risky. Okay. So it's a 20-year loan instead of the typical 30-year loan. All right. Yeah. So what does that mean? Okay. It means that think of it this way, right? So we were talking about the 30-year loan and how the principal portion, the pay down starts off really slow because it's a 30-year loan because you have a lot of payments and because the payment is lower. So on a 20-year, a 20-year is like starting 10 years into the 30.
Okay.
So we're lopping off 10 years.
Yeah.
Right. So when you look at the 30-year amortization chart and you look at the 20-year amortization chart, you start making those payments.
Yeah.
On the 20-year, you have a much larger portion going to principal.
With the 20.
Right, with the 20.
Yeah.
Right? Now, the payment on the 20 is higher. All right? But you're paying the loan back faster. So you're saving a lot of interest.
Mm-hmm.
So the point is there is people talk about interest rates. Interest rates are up, whatever. Rate is just one factor of this equation.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
There are other factors of the equation that determine how much interest you're going to pay.
Yeah. I mean, and this is fascinating because where it can lead at the end of 20 is quite startling. But I might be delivering the punchline.
No, not at all. The point is focusing on bridging that gap between the 20-year payment and the 30-year payment. All right?
Yeah.
So the prize is faster equity buildup, significant faster equity buildup, if we can figure out how to bridge that gap. Okay? So now,
how much are we talking?
It's not much.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's not an insurmountable, this isn't a pie in the sky, like, if you can figure out how to,
pay it all
solve this, unsolvable problem, then you get the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. No, it's...
this is doable.
It's very doable. It's about, in the example that I worked out when I was fact-checking myself, because I always do that, the payment difference was 12% more versus the other. Okay, so I maybe we'll get into some numbers here in a minute, but I know we're getting close on a break time here.
Yeah,
and this isn't something that you're going to want to like stop in the middle of.
Fly through.
Right?
But and you're talking about maybe a $400,000 home.
Yeah, what I worked out, and I purposely picked a big one because I wanted to illustrate basically how small the difference is.
Yeah.
You know, just know, like, if you're looking at a smaller price, like a lower priced home or a smaller mortgage, the gap would be smaller.
Yeah.
Okay. But even, it's not the biggest house in a block you can buy, but it's up there.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting up there. It's not a small home.
But I do want to spend time on that. We've joked around about it being a boulder of information and a payoff that's really cool. So you got to hang on. You got to hang on listening. And coming up, our guest, and we really go over the whole thing, and it's super cool. So hang out. You're listening to HomeWise Radio with Michael Miget, HomeWiseRadio.com. We listed all the different ways to find us, HomeWiseRadio.com, and it all goes from there. Very, very cool. We'll be right back. Thanks for listening. HomeWise Radio, thank you so much for listening. We have a great time off the air and on the air, and you can watch. By the way, you can watch some of that off the air stuff as well. We always have these cameras on, and we thank you so much for checking us out at HomeWiseRadio.com. I'm your host, Paul Cook, creator of the show. Michael Miget has brought in a guest, and Mike, why don't I hand it over to you?
I have, Paul. Thanks. Mm-hmm. In studio today, we have Dave George with Worth Clark Realty. Can you fix that?
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
In studio with us today, we have Dave George with Worth Clark Realty. Welcome to the show, Dave.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate you having me.
Hey, anytime we're here.
Sure. Yeah.
So we've been talking about the home buying process and the idea of asking questions and applying strategy and things like that. And so I've got some questions that I want to ask you in that topic. But before we get there, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, background, story, things like that.
Sure, absolutely. I've been in the service industry for my entire career, in sales or service one way or another, but was in medical sales, owned a Great Harvest bread company franchise for 5 years, okay, which was a real adventure in Memphis. But roots in St. Louis, decided to move back to St. Louis and decided to get into, a friend of mine was in the real estate business and said, you'd be great at it because you're service nature. And so I jumped in and absolutely love what I'm doing.
Yeah, I noticed that when I was kind of, we do a little bit of research, not just anybody can get on the show.
Yeah, right.
I noticed your entrepreneurial background.
Uh-huh.
So that's always interesting to me because I'm entrepreneurial in nature also. So thanks for sharing that. What drew you to real estate?
It was more the past experience that my wife and I had coupled with the desire to serve people. And what I mean by that is the past experience my wife and I had is 35 years ago when we first got married, we went looking for a house. And we wrote a contract on a house, and we didn't get it. And the agent started showing us additional houses. And after we had seen about 5 or 6, it was apparent to us, even at that young age, that this agent just wanted to get us into a house and move on. And the reason I say that is because when the key would enter the front door of the next house we'd look at, that door would only be halfway open, and the agent would be saying, this house is absolutely gorgeous. This is you. and we'd be looking at each other going, we don't like it, but how do we tell her?
Yeah.
And it was man. It was pressure. And so that's the exact opposite of the way that I sell and the way I deal with people. I try to put themselves ahead of myself. That way we both win and serve their needs best I can.
Yeah. And that, that's everything we stand for here, and that brings up something that we talked about once before on the show here, but the words putting your putting the client's needs ahead of your own, right? Your willingness and desire to do that. It has a name, right, Paul? Remember this? This is the fiduciary duty topic we were talking about.
Fiduciary.
So me as a mortgage broker,
it's a responsibility.
I'm legally bound by fiduciary duty. I'm an agent for my clients. I'm legally bound to put my clients' interests ahead of my own, right? Not all mortgage lenders, banks, ordinary loan officers don't have that requirement. Doesn't mean that they don't. They're just not required to.
Yeah.
But
legally,
that's part of being a mortgage broker. And real estate agents, I believe, have that same duty because it's an agency relationship. And under Missouri law, I'm not a lawyer, so this isn't, legal advice. But irregardless of whether you're required to do it or not, that's just what you've worked into your business.
Right, you're exactly right. And despite the fiduciary responsibility, there are many people, as you know, that in your industry, as well as mine, that get as close to that gray line as possible and really don't care about their clients the way they should.
Walk into a room of most real estate agents or mortgage lenders, brokers, or like anybody, and say the word fiduciary duty and just watch eyeballs like spin around. Like, what are you talking about? What's that? Like,
I know I had to learn it.
I don't even understand. So like then you say what it is, you're like, oh yeah, we do that.
Yeah, if you don't know the word, how are you going to provide the service?
Right. So, but no, and that is, I noticed that off the bat because I saw, your the presentation that you give when you initially talk to people, and that's worked in there like that. So that kind of stuff just jumps right out. It jumps right out at me.
And the way I look at it, Paul, is when somebody and Michael, when somebody asks me, "Who are you? What makes you different?" Because there are a million of us out there, and what I like to tell them is this: look, when we help you buy a house, this is a major, major decision. It's not going to Schnucks. It's not going to buy a car. It's huge. And so I need to treat you with the respect that you deserve. And how that plays out is this. If we look for a house for 4 years and you decide, I'm not going anywhere after all, I should be accepting of that and say, that's absolutely fine. That's in your best interest. I had some situations, a year and a half ago when the market was extremely crazy. I had some first-time home buyers, and they were one couple, as an example. They had two daughters living in Dad's basement. They wanted their own place. So we'd go out looking, and they would bid on a house, $20,000 over. They didn't get it. I would go in, and when I go in and show houses, I try to point out all of the fallacies of that house. I'm pointing out bad things all over the place to open their eyes because their eyes aren't open. They're just envisioning themselves living there.
Yep.
And then it comes down to, okay, you really like the house. What are we going to pay for it? And so I pull up the comps and say, you shouldn't go over this. Yeah, but it's going to go for this. I know. But we're going to be here for forever. And I make the assumption that a life event's going to happen. They might think that they're going to be there forever, but I'm assuming that they buy the house. 6 months later, they have to sell it for some reason. And I want to make sure that they're not burned. I don't have the crystal ball, but I would try to do the best. And there are times where I've had to say, I'm sorry, I'm going to take my realtor hat off and I'm going to put my dad hat on. You can't do this. And I just feel it's the right thing to do. And if you treat people that way, as I know you do, everybody wins.
Yeah. And it is, right? At least to point it out. Right. Yeah. So it's not like you don't have to actually create a physical barrier, if we're not going to, but my belief, just my personal belief, and I'm in the minority when it comes to this, unfortunately, most of the time, is that they need to know these things. Right. So, it breaks my heart when you hear about buyer's remorse from somebody that bought a house because it's not the kind of thing even like a car, they got the cars now that you can drive for a week and take back if you don't like it or overnight or whatever. There used to be a thing here. So here's a good story. There used to be a thing where, and it kind of came during a time when houses weren't moving. Right. So that's not what we have just come out of in the last, couple of years, and even anything remotely recent, right? So we're talking 10 years ago, like after the Great Recession, and even before that, there were some rough markets. Sellers offering to let buyers spend the night in the house before they bought it, just to see, because
I love that.
you don't experience the house at night. Like usually before you make an offer on a house, you get to see it once, maybe. I mean, nowadays, no, you don't get to see it twice because you got to be ready you got to walk in there ready to lock and
emotionally
load,
you're in.
Boom, be ready to go because there's like a line of people to get in.
Yeah.
Right. And if it's an attractive house, that might still be the case. Okay. Not to the degree it was the last 2 years, but if it's a good house, there's probably still going to be some competition for it because inventory is so low. So the idea that you would even get to see a house more than once.
Wow.
When are open houses? They're on Sundays, Well, Sunday is, what if it's a busy street?
Yeah.
Not as busy on Sunday as it might be on Monday morning.
Traffic stops
Less than
in
24
front.
hours, right?
Yeah.
18 hours later, what is this road going to look like? The other thing is, noon on Sunday, like high noon, sunny day, right? Lit up, beautiful.
Smart. It makes sense. I never even thought about that.
What does it look like on a cloudy Tuesday?
Yeah.
When I'm not in a good mood. Like the time when the rough edges are really going to jump out at
the train
right?
that runs
right?
somehow on
so
the
Dave
weekday.
Talked about pointing out the problems with the house, right? Not to be a Debbie Downer or anything, but it's just like, hey, especially with a first time home buyer that hasn't been through this before. But everybody, okay, and I'm guilty of it. When I bought my house, I'm an idiot. When I look at what I'm like trying to figure, like, did I not get in this?
I did the same thing.
But I was young, I was dumb, I was in a hurry, and I didn't, but that's another story for another day. So, but that's how I know this happens.
Yeah.
Because I experienced it.
Well, you
myself.
both have to be the reality, not the buzzkill, but the reality.
Right.
Our guest today, Dave George, he's with Worth Clark Realty. My name is Paul Cook. I'm your host, and you're listening to HomeWise Radio, HomeWiseRadio.com. Yeah, I love that. And this is kind of a sarcastic statement, but you put the dad hat on and you say, this isn't right. How many dollars do you make at that moment? You don't make any. Right? And the other guy with the key in the half door is working to make that money, churn you out. But you probably get them back for years and years if they change houses or move, and that one as well. It's worth something, and I know that's not your thing because you're service-oriented, but taking that time, and I know that's how Mike works as well, what does that mean to you?
It means the world. It's providing a living is certainly necessary. But the gratitude that you get back from knowing that you did a good job for people that you're serving it's more than the money. It's really important at the end of it all, because it's a stressful situation. People buying a home, you almost have to be a therapist in a certain sense because it's emotional for them. And you need to be the level playing field, the reason of calm to help them along the way.
That's cool.
Yeah, you're seeing people at the rawest version of it, like partially because a transaction takes a while, right? So there's a length of time here. So it's not like, and I will go back to the example of buying a car. You can walk on a lot, pick a car, drive off, get it all done in one afternoon. You're done, and you never have to go. Hopefully, you never go back. Like there's no problem, and you need to go back because that's like why you would go back,
right?
But
you don't go back all like, hey, thanks.
House, but a house, this is at least a few weeks.
And you could have these letdowns.
Yeah.
I mean, you see emotional stuff, don't you?
Right. Oh, yeah,
that's something you don't think about with a realtor. You too.
Yeah.
You too, Mike. There's emotional stuff, the up and the down, and then you're talking about that process.
Yep. And I'm sometimes I feel like I'm watching it from the sidelines, but I'm a part of that. So, they're working with me on a daily or every other day basis. So it's like, you get that, you catch them, morning, noon, night, late, early.
Yeah, you got to let them know.
Like good mood, bad mood. Like you get you've got a big enough sample size where you get to see it and hear and feel it all, But I mean, it really is. It's a relationship business, and if you don't like people, don't get into it. You know,
Right.
If you don't, if you don't have, I don't know, I'm not sure exactly what I'm looking for, but
inner responsibility feeling.
I like if you don't have, if there's not a reason, like why someone should choose you over somebody else, even beyond just the relationship end of it, it comes to, there was something that popped into my head earlier on that I didn't say, but when the consumer is looking at you and me, like, so your profession, my profession. See, I can look at you, I can look at all your stuff, and I can see the differences. Oh, this is unique. This is unique. This is unique.
Yeah,
Like,
you're
for example,
checking.
Dave has a book.
Yes, he does.
He wrote a book.
He wrote a book. I want to hear about the
He
book.
wrote a book.
Okay, so here's
We
the thing.
will.
We're at the end of our break, but we are kind of just at the beginning because two things. We're going to hear about our guest, Dave, his book, and the Wealth Builder Mortgage, a proven strategic loan structure that Mike's going to talk about a little bit and go through some examples, and that's coming up on HomeWise Radio. Thanks so much for listening. Stay right here. HomeWise Radio with Michael Miget. It's episode 16. Oh my gosh. And you can see most of them, and you can hear a lot of them. And it's funny how each episode has a point and a strategy and something useful. But when you string them all together, it's a pretty cool thing that happens. Wait a minute, that was intentional. Huh, Mike? The story. What's that movie where all of a sudden at the end you go, oh my gosh, The Sixth Sense. You know what I mean? You get it. The whole thing makes sense. So I don't want to derail. Why don't you tell us more? That's my job, derailer and chief. But Mike,
You almost started a tangent that could go on. Like, I could talk all day on that movie.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
It's,
funny.
It's truly, like, it's hard to do a scary movie these days. Like a truly frightening movie.
Yes.
That movie is truly frightening.
I know. Under the bed, like it really got me.
Yeah.
It really, and then
I mean,
the
it
throwing
just
up.
freaks
Oh,
you out.
yeesh.
It freaks you out.
You seen that, Dave?
I have not.
Dave. Okay.
I'll put it on the
We're gonna have to
list.
schedule a viewing.
Yeah, don't
right.
no more talking about it because you'll ruin it.
Okay. That's
Okay.
Great point.
It's frightening though.
Bruce Willis.
Right? So if you're a little squeamish, like maybe you watch it with somebody,
Okay.
but
It's one of my favorites.
you need
Ever.
the lights need to be out. It needs to be a dark, like a
Yes.
theatrical
Sure.
that will, because it's like a dark movie.
Uh-huh.
It's like Seven.
Okay.
You seen Seven?
Sure.
There's two movies in my view. Seven's great.
Seven's
That's one of my
frightening as
top
well.
5. Yeah. Another one
8
is
millimeter.
this isn't frightening, but in that moment that I was trying to kind of describe that you go, The Usual Suspects.
Oh yeah. Oh, Kaiser.
Yeah, Kaiser Associate. Okay, so
Oh,
what
I
are
love
we
that.
doing?
I love that.
This is great to hear how you think. You can learn a lot about people by the movies they
Well,
love.
oh yeah. I told you that. Maybe that's our pet project.
Yes, good call.
We left on a cliffhanger. We were going to ask Dave about his book.
Tell us about it, my
Sure.
friend.
Again, the passion for me writing this book falls in line with the service side of things. We had talked earlier about how I help buyers and the importance of the pitfalls in potentially buying a wrong house or at the wrong price.
Yeah.
And so the book that I wrote is called Selling Your Home for Top Dollar, the Ultimate Home Seller's Guide. And again, that is more geared for people that need to be informed. A lot of opinions out there about, I've got to have my house ready to sell. What am I going to do? What makes sense? And a lot of money is spent that really shouldn't be spent. And a lot of corners are cut that really shouldn't be cut. And the ultimate goal is to get them the most amount of money in the quickest amount of time. So in the book, I outline everything from the outside of the house, the importance of curb appeal, to each room, to staging, to even in the back of the book. I think it's important for them to understand the contract and negotiations, because so often it's, again, that emotional time, papers thrown at them, they're signing things, and they don't understand. So I want to slow the process down, educate them so they're up to speed on what we're going to experience before it happens, and so they understand the best way to handle these issues as they arise.
That's brilliant, and I love that it's a guide. It's not, here's my story. It's a guide that works for people. That's pretty cool.
Right, and it goes room by room, and it really gives them a good overview. I always tell people that if they absorb the whole book at once, they're going to feel overwhelmed. You don't have to do it all. Let me come to your house and let me help you evaluate, and then we'll formulate a game plan. And sometimes that evaluation is, we're not going to do a thing to it. This week, I've got a lady who's a recent widow. We need to put her house on the market. It's a nice house, got great bones, 40 years old. They didn't do any updates. So for us to go in and maybe update a bathroom and that's it, doesn't make sense. So it's really finding out particularly, the book is the general overview, but getting into their house in particular is what's really going to help.
Wow.
Yeah, sometimes, and this is a book is a great tool, right? Having a report is a great tool. Having a radio show is a great tool. I'm learning. I'm
Yeah,
slow,
that's
but
cool.
I'm learning.
I didn't even think about that.
I catch on eventually. People get, somebody that is looking to buy, looking to sell, do whatever, but they're not at the point where I'm ready to talk to somebody, because that's dangerous, right? Stranger danger. I don't want to talk to anybody. I get sold something. Nobody wants to do that. It's not comfortable. Especially the conversations that we have to have. A lot of times they're not
Absolutely.
like, I compare them to going to the dentist, right? It's like when the pain of not going exceeds the pain of going is when people go.
Wow.
Right? So they don't go early, they tend to go late. But having a book allows somebody to, in a safe way, get engagement with you, right? Find out about you. Find out about the process. Well, really what happens is they show up wanting to know about the process. And then in the process of finding out about the process, they learn about the person, right? And see, that happens in real life when they call or they meet anyway. You come and you're talking about like doing the walkthrough on the house, or you're talking about, in this particular case here, there's going to be a discussion about some bathrooms, maybe some other updates or other things you might do to, it's a decision that will be made, but you will make it in such a sense that we'll have a strategy plan outlining how we get to an acceptable or the biggest number we can, like net sale
for you,
net proceeds from sale.
Right.
So what you do to it has to make sense, but they will have that. During that conversation and that process of going through all that, they learn about you. They learn about Dave. Right.
And
this is the meeting before the meeting. Right?
Absolutely right. And then when we get to the meeting, the thing that I like to impress upon them is if we formulate this game plan, a lot of times it's going to be somewhat overwhelming and intimidating to them. And that's where, when I first started in this business, I had other agents telling me, you shouldn't do that. You're an agent. That's not your job. And what I mean by that is we formulate a game plan. And the game plan might need we've got to get this stuff to charity. We've got to get this stuff to the dumpster. We've got to landscape the front yard, et cetera, et cetera. Well, we don't just give them a list and leave and say, call us when you're done. We roll up our sleeves. My wife works with me. So she got a call from one of our current clients, the widow that I had mentioned, and she's going to be over there packing boxes with her next Monday and Wednesday. I like at times.
I noticed that too. That I said it's taking care of the person.
Yeah,
part of the process, right? So there's the paperwork. So you mentioned.
That's really cool.
Well, no, you don't do that. That's not your job.
That's not your job.
See that? Right. See, when you said that, it reminded me of something that a mentor of mine told me many years ago. So when you're in mortgage, right, and a significant part of our business in previous years was refinance. And refinance, it's not a purchase or whatever. It's you're taking an existing loan and you're refinancing it. And so there's a decision like, should I refinance, right? Well, I'm the accountant, right? I crunch numbers. I can dig into all this. And there was a lot of that baked into that earlier conversation about the wealth builder that we started. And which, by the way, if we don't get to all of that, I'm going to do a supplement for this show and upload it separately. So remind me about that when
I will.
When we get there.
And we do have, let's just say, as we're chatting, we have about 5 to 7 minutes. So
I'm looked down. I see we're not going to get Like I can't even get my hand out of my pocket in 5 minutes. I need pens. Now I completely forgot what I was going to say.
Well,
no. He's like, I'm like, but I'll call him Bob.
Yeah.
Name's not Bob.
Your old mentor, Bob.
I'll name him Bob. Bob
Okay.
says, I said, Bob, there's no, I can't come up with a reason why they should refinance. There's no savings for them. Don't worry about that.
That's not your job.
Just present it to them, right? They'll take the lower rate, but it's not saving them any money. They're going, and I'm thinking like silly, they're going to be unhappy. They're not going to get this is not a good thing. It's not going to change their life or anything.
It might sound right. It might sound sexy right now, but you've looked at the numbers. It's not going to help them.
Yeah. And so I just see me as probably bad salesman. I'll just say it, right? Good for the consumer, bad for my bank account.
Yeah. Yeah.
In situations like that.
At least
now, there's a whole lot of other situations that don't look saleable because they don't fit the way people normally make the buying process decision that I can point out, oh, no. See, look, here's the benefit over here where you're not looking.
Yeah.
And part of that is with that 20-year loan that we were talking about earlier. Just because the rest of the industry doesn't think that it's our job to do something doesn't mean that it can't be our job. It doesn't mean that we couldn't use that to differentiate ourselves. Because remember, the consumer, when they look at us, they can't tell the difference. I don't think I actually said that earlier.
Yeah.
When they look at you, they look at me, our professions both suffer from the same thing. I know there's differences for you. I can tell you what my differences are. But to the person outside looking in, line me up with 10 other loan officers and like, I can't tell the difference. Even if we tell them what the difference is, they can't see it. It's not that's not their thing, right?
Yeah.
It used to frustrate me to no end. Like, why'd you go with them? I'm the one, I'm clearly the choice, right? I can see it. They can't see it, right?
Man.
So
that's what I've learned most in this whole series.
Well, and it's the lengths that I've had to go to point that out.
And to prove
it. That. Well, right. You have to prove it. You have to, because you're never going to believe it otherwise.
Especially with the numbers.
I don't live in this fantasy land where you can just get on TV and say something and it's true because I said it.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you watch the news and all the crazy stuff that's going on in the world today and people just blatantly lying about things, and it must be true because I said it.
And they're on my TV screen.
And if enough other
my phone.
news people say it, then they take something and they create truth, or what we think of as truth.
They're true.
That's not the world that we live in, right? I'm judged by, was the transaction successful? Did I get the house? Did I get the house I wanted? Am I paying what I wanted for the house? How is this going to fit into my overall financial picture? Did I pay the right amount for the house? Did we get the right amount from the sale of the house? Did it happen on our time frame? We're judged by those outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
And there's only one judge in that transaction, and it's the client.
Yeah.
So if they're not happy, so I've made it, if they're not happy, I'm not happy.
Yeah.
So if they're not happy, I haven't done my job, even if I've done my job.
Yeah, you completed the job.
You get paid the same. Bring this full circle, it's not your job. But it made it my job because I want you to be happy and satisfied, and I actually want you to be better off having met me and worked with me than you would be otherwise, or if you had chosen somebody else.
Did you guys plan this out, both of you? Because you both got to the exact. It's a very similar thing,
right? Actually, so I make the joke about preparing less and less and less as the weeks have gone on and on and on.
Yes,
and the conversation seemed to be getting better and better and better.
Yeah.
So we did not, no prep work whatsoever on this, other than I told them just be ready to tell people who you are and your background.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very cool. Hey, hand me your book.
Sure.
Would you? I want to get that bad boy on camera just so you can see it. Your beautiful wife. There we go. Just so you can kind of see the book there. Selling Your Home for Top Dollar, the ultimate Home Seller's Guide. Look at all this. Oh my gosh.
How does somebody get a copy of that if they want to?
They can call me. They can email me. I'd be happy to send them one.
Okay.
Awesome, man. That's really cool. Thank you.
So where would they call you?
I'm at 314-575-7444.
Okay. And your website is?
TeamGeorgeSTL.com.
Okay.
You got your own website, correct? A lot of times our guests will leave things out, and they'll be like, oh, my gosh, no. It's a funny thing.
Right.
TeamGeorgeSTL.com. This guy we can get a hold of, too.
I'll link it through the Facebook page and things like that.
Yeah.
So
you can get your book, too.
Appreciate that.
If you haven't followed, liked, shared, like on the grid, like we're aware of you, do it. So you get all the updates and you get stuff like this when it comes out.
Very cool. How would we get a hold of you?
Well, you can get a hold of me all the usual ways. Right here every week on HomeWise Radio, HomeWiseRadio.com. Mortgage website is GoShelter.com. And if you want to call me or text me, it's 314-275-0314.
Thank you so much, Dave. Appreciate it very much. That's
you.
Michael Miget. We're just now going, baby. Remember the library with all the volumes. Make sure you check us out.
One thing.
Yes.
All right. So we promised.
Yes.
We were going to get to the details on the Wealth Builder, and we didn't. Okay.
On this radio show.
On the radio show, right? So what I'm going to do is, and this actually, it turns out it'll be better because I can do screenshots. So you'll have to, if you're listening to this in your car or whatever, we're going to have to move you over to the web online or whatever. Another incentive to go to the Facebook page and like it, because that's where I'm going to upload this, and I'll put it on YouTube.
And it's well worth it.
YouTube and all that too. But I will go through the details on this and outline probably in greater detail what I would have been able to talk about on the radio in that separate supplement.
HomeWiseRadio.com, also on Facebook. You're going to get the whole lowdown on what he was talking about with Wealth Builder. You'll find it.
You'll find it.
Make sure you find it. I'm Paul Cook. Thank you so much for watching and listening to HomeWise Radio. Again, HomeWiseRadio.com. Have a great day.
Loan and loan information provided by Michael Miget, NMLS number 205402, and Shelter Mortgage, Inc., 691 Trade Center Boulevard, Chesterfield, Missouri, 63005, NMLS number 192609, a Missouri residential mortgage.